I now declare the meeting of the 17th of February 2026 Burwood Council meeting open. I note there are no speakers for public forum, so we'll get straight into the meeting and declare the official part of the meeting open at 6 p.m. I'd also quickly like to welcome all our councillors and staff, all councillors for our first meeting, and obviously the staff have been working very busily, but welcome back for the new year and Happy Lunar New Year today as well. So Manyan Kwaila, I believe, Gong Shi Fat Chai, to our residents and councillors that are here. Can I ask you now please to be upstanding for the council prayer? Lord, we humbly beseech thee to vouchsafe thy blessing on this council, direct and prosper its deliberations for the advancement of this area and the true welfare of its people. Amen. Thank you. If you could please be seated. Burwood Council acknowledges the Wongal people who are the traditional custodians of the land and pay our respects to the elders both past and present, and extend that respect to other First Nations people who may be present. I would ask that we get a motion to accept the request by Councillor Yang, who has caring duties tonight and couldn't be here in person, but is on Zoom or online via video link. So we just need an approval. Been moved by Councillor Hull, seconded by Councillor Esper. I'll put the motion. All those in favour. Those against declare that carried unanimously. I just remind councillors of their statement of ethical obligations under the Act of 1993 and under Council's Code of Conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. And also remind councillors that this is the first meeting now where we will have meetings of council which are live streamed for the purpose of promoting public transparency, and they can be viewed on YouTube via the council website. Yeah, I know. I'm getting to it. Tom's too quick. Next item is apologies leave of absence. I note that Councillor Manor is not here with us. He's asked for a leave of absence, been moved by Councillor Wu, seconded by Councillor Batta. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, those against, I'll declare that carried unanimously. Any declarations of interest by councillors on items? Declarations of political donations? Confirmation of the previous minutes for the December 9, 2025 meeting, and which have been previously circulated. It's been moved by Councillor Yang, seconded by Councillor Esper, that they be accepted as a true copy. All those in favour? Those against, I declare that carried unanimously. We'll move into mayoral minutes. And the first item is MM2/26, which is Light Up Burwood, Christmas Lights Competition. As many of you are aware, the festive season is a time when creativity, generosity and community spirit naturally spill into our streets. Council has consistently worked to support local businesses and enhance the appearance of Burwood's centres and neighbourhoods through a range of place-based initiatives, including streetscape upgrades, events and activations, and the shopfront improvement program. Building on this sustained focus on beautification and local vibrancy, there is an opportunity to introduce that of Burwood as an annual Christmas lights competition that celebrates community pride, creativity and festive spirit across the LGA. The competition would invite residents and businesses across Burwood to light up their homes, balconies and shop fronts with festive displays, transforming everyday streets into shared seasonal experiences for the whole community. Entries would be showcased across the council platforms and supported by a digital map or trail list, encouraging families and visitors to explore decorated streets throughout December. A small prize could be awarded to the winner or winners in different categories as a symbol of gratitude and recognition, based on engagement and votes from the community and on a review by council staff. At its heart, the initiative is a celebration of neighbourly pride and shared connection, bringing the community together through simple, creative acts that light up our streets and create a sense of belonging. I therefore move that the General Manager investigate the establishment of Light Up Burwood as an annual Christmas lights competition commencing in 2026. Councillors, any questions? Any other speakers? Put the minute. All those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried unanimously. Next item, councillors, also is a Merrill Minute, which is the destination strategy for a global connected city. Recently recognised as Australia's coolest neighbourhood and ranked 16th in the world, or first in Australia. Burwood has attracted international attention through the authentic mix of culture, food, creativity and day-to-night vibrancy. This recognition affirms what local businesses and residents already know and presents a timely opportunity to consider how this momentum can be translated into stronger economic and community outcomes. Council is already laying the foundations for continued growth and leadership in the space with a clear focus on the day-to-night economy, including the establishment of Burwood's first special entertainment precinct and the purpose of pursuit of Purple Flag accreditation. Together, these initiatives reinforce confidence in Burwood as a safe, inclusive and economically active precinct, while positioning the area to attract increased visitation and investment at both national and international levels. The question now is no longer whether Burwood is a destination, but how we invite people to experience it. Operating as a living layer over Burwood, an experimental destination platform, experiential destination platform could support local businesses by attracting more customers, encouraging longer stays, and increasing repeat visitation, particularly beyond traditional peak periods. By better connecting food, culture, events, and the nighttime economy, the platform could strengthen the visitor economy while also enhancing everyday life for residents. As Burwood continues to evolve, this is the moment to establish a confident destination narrative, one that reflects its growing global profile, supports industry, and ensures Burwood's cultural energy delivers lasting economic and community benefit. I therefore move that the General Manager investigates opportunities to promote Burwood as a destination and consider the supporting activities or frameworks that could help maximise economic, business and community benefits. Questions? Councillor Hull?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. Would someone mind explaining to me, please, what Purple Flag accreditation means and who or what is the accrediting body for that initiative? Thanks.
I'll forward that question to the General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We hand over to Miriam.
While you're doing that, Miriam, so can we get these lights turned? It's just it's hard for me to read because they're just a bit dim. And my contacts are playing up today and I forgot my eye drops. Sorry, Michelle. Sorry, Miriam.
No problem. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the Purple Flag accreditation program is actually a global program. It originated in the UK and it's really designed to signify to communities where there's safe, vibrant and accessible active nighttime precincts. And so it's recently come to Australia through the Office of the 24-Hour Economy Commissioner. So their office is actually supporting the rollout in Sydney. At present, there are 4 areas that have received Purple Flag accreditation. It requires a very vigorous process. It's an assessment process for self-assessment of your area and your precinct and how you measure up against visibility and amenities, safety, vibrancy and activity, culture and a number of other principles. Independent assessment panel that cuts out physical. So the 2 of them would look at the precinct. They then ask you a number of questions which they measure and assess the success of our nighttime economy against and look at your existing strategies. Then an independent panel actually assesses that based on a number of defined principles that are connected globally across precincts like the UK, and then you're awarded that accreditation. As a result, you actually get some global destination marketing. So Burwood, for example, would become known as a safe, vibrant precinct to visitors locally, but also internationally. But equally, it has the opportunity to unlock other wonderful programs and activities as the program continues to gain momentum in Sydney.
And through you,
Councillor
Mr Mayor, if I
Yes.
may just ask also, are there any fees or charges associated with this accreditation?
I don't believe so.
In fact, probably the opposite. If we were to achieve the accreditation, as Miriam mentioned, we could probably access some funding opportunities that come from state and federal government as an endorsement and facilitation of activities in the nighttime. So, yeah.
Thank you, councillor. So I'd put any other further questions, put them in it. All those in favour? Those against, declare that carried unanimously. Thanks for your support, councillors, on those minutes. We'll now move into the reports for general business. The first item being item 2/26, which is the council submission for strategic planning reforms, industrial lands policy and draft Sydney plan. Do I have a move? Been moved by councillor Espar, seconded by councillor Wu Koshut. Can I suggest just an amendment, if we can? The other day, if you two are okay, unless you wish to speak on the item, councillor Espar, no, councillor Wu, no. Can I suggest that we add a part 2 where I write to the state member, because it mentions in here, it speaks about affordable housing as part of the government's plan. So this is all, I know these are all state government plans that we respond to, and that we get the state member to put forward, to investigate the possibility of part of, so when you're getting all these new developments now, you're getting 15% affordable housing in these developments. And the other day we had a roundtable on domestic violence. And one of the issues with DV clients or residents is that it's very hard to get them into permanent accommodation again and that transition when they're safe again. And because the affordable housing SEP has, the 15% of it, of those apartments in the total building, generally, I believe it's 20% less market rate on their rentals, from what I understand. And it goes through a community housing provider. So I was going to suggest that in our submission also, that, or in the recommendation here, that I write to the state member requesting that the government consider as part of its affordable housing strategy, the 15%. So there's no feasibility issue for developers or anyone else, or community housing providers, but a certain level of that give a first in opportunity for DV clients or residents, because many of them, have jobs, so they're paying rent elsewhere, but they just can't seem to get the affordable housing. So out of the 15%, you might have a percentage of that. It might be 2%, it might be 1%, it might be 3%, that if there are DV clients in your area that need that housing, they're given, considered as a category where, as a key worker. So can I suggest then, so we write to part B, that we write to the state member, Mr. Jason Yatsen-Lee, suggesting that the state government consider legislation to amend the affordable housing SEP of 15% to include residents or clients that have been affected by domestic violence and that are currently in shelter housing, and that consider a percentage of the 15%. Sorry, I'll slow down. A percentage of the 15% that could be put aside for domestic violence residents or clients. Do you have an issue with that, Councillor? Councillor Wood? Councillor Ho, you have a question?
Yeah, look, I would support that amendment, Mr Mayor, incidentally, but I also wanted to tack another amendment onto that, if I may.
Well, it's not for me to decide. It would be for them, and then they'll have to vote on it.
To the mover, yes. I just note some comments on page 12 in Council's review that the plan, the draft, I think it's referring to the draft Sydney plan, lacks a comprehensive funded infrastructure strategy, appearing to shift delivery of responsibility onto councils without adequate resources. Could we seek an explanation, perhaps from the state government, as to why that is the case and how they propose to address that issue?
I believe that's in our submission. That's why it's listed. So we're going to be doing that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's a serious shortcoming with this proposal, in my opinion.
And from the way I read it, and correct me if I'm wrong, to the general manager, that's happening through. That's what this submission's built on. Part of that. So the reason that's highlighted is when we put in our response to the state government and planning, that'll be raised as one of our issues that we have.
Well, as long as this is going to be specifically addressed in our submission, I'll be satisfied with that.
That's why it's highlighted in that. Yeah. Any other questions? Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried unanimously. I can't see Councillor Young is up there. He's not here. It's okay. Yeah. Okay. Next item is the City of Burwood options for pursuing city status, which is item 3/26 on page 16. The wording.
Previous one.
Oh,
Michelle, do you want to just put the wording of the other one?
yeah, right to the state member, just requesting that the government consider that part of the 15% of affordable housing be set aside for domestic violence applicants. Yes.
Victims.
Yeah. 3/26 City of Burwood options, page 16. Been moved by Councillor Yang, seconded by Councillor Batta. Any questions? Councillor Hull?
Yes. So under this proposal, Mr. Mayor, is it being proposed that if this proposal goes through, that Burwood Council would then be known or styled as the Burwood City Council, for example?
I believe so.
That is correct.
That's right.
That's correct. And secondly, it's proposed that there be a statistically valid LGA-wide survey. I take it that would mean well, what does that mean? Does that mean an actual public consultation, or does it mean an actual poll?
So that there was a poll that we held, I believe, I think it was 2012, and then recently we had a survey that we undertake as part of our customer service review. And I think that's looking at a survey through that again, but I'll hand over to the GM to add. That's if we end up going down the line of changing by proclamation. So this is more a name change. The other aspect is if we continue down and depending what that happens. But obviously the reason we're, I guess, moving forward with such an approach, and then the GM can also respond to this, is in line with ensuring that there's a minimal sort of cost effect on the organisation.
That is correct. As for statistically valid sample, when we do surveys, LG, local government area-wide surveys, the statistically valid sample, typically given the population size of Burwood, is roughly about 400 people. So that's within the diversion rate, or it wouldn't change dramatically if we went from 400 to, say, 1,000. So when we use Micromix, you might recall, the independent firm that do these sort of surveys, they typically go for the 400 mark, which we've done as part of the resident satisfaction survey. But the Mayor is correct. This is the most effective and efficient and obviously cost-effective way of going for that branding exercise, trading as, whilst we pursue the longer path towards formal recognition by the governor, if we wish to do so.
And things like stationery or material, or your emails, reports, as they get updated, will be updated with the name. So we're not going to purge or everything and you sort of throw it out and then spend a whole amount of money on redoing everything. So as we, get through our letterheads and our cards and everything else, you'll see the new logo. Or it won't be a new logo; it'll just be an addition. So it'll be Burwood City Council instead of Burwood Council. But things like your report, which some of the papers which have just Burwood there with the B, will continue to stay the same, I believe. All right. Any other speakers? The motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare that carried unanimously. Next item is the Sustainability Environment Advisory Committee, which I believe in your attachments, which I don't think were confidential, but they're in your attachments, which had the name of, and I think it was to protect the privacy. Is that right? Is this confidential? So it has those that applied and the members that the staff are recommending to be accepted on that committee. I think we had 32, I think, applications. I think it was in the 30s from memory, and I think we're selecting for 32 applicants there. There it is. Do I have a mover? Been moved by Councillor Wu, seconded by Councillor Esper. Any speakers? Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare that carried unanimously. 5/26, which is an update on the Western Sydney Infrastructure Grants Program. Moved by Councillor Esper, seconded by Councillor Batter. Any speakers? Questions? Oh, I just want to add, if I can, a question is, and I note there's a bit of an update there on Paisley Road and the connection with continuing the boulevard sort of feel and look through Burwood, Railway Parade, crossing Burwood Road, going in front of the Greek church along Railway Parade there, then obviously it stops at Shaftesbury, and now we're looking at the section between Shaftesbury and the Strand, Croydon. I just think there might be a great, there's this synergy of connecting the two town centres together. They're very different, but people to have the opportunity to experience that. So I'll just put on for the record in talking on the item, so I won't add anything, it'll be really interesting to see in our investigative works if we are able to look at some way of a shared bike path where we can connect. I see that there's Lime bikes sort of happening at the moment in the LGA, and some are working really well, and some obviously there's been some issues. Speaking to some residents, but in saying that, it would be a really good opportunity to have where you could actually then have bays between the two. So if that could be engineered into the design or not out-engineered, it'll be worthwhile looking at. Is there any other speakers? Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare that carried unanimously. Then the next items are reports, which are just updates to receive and note the reports, I believe, which is 6/26, which is the half-yearly report, which is on page 44. Moved by Councillor Esper, seconded by Councillor Batter. Speakers? Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Declare that carried unanimously. And item 7/26, which is the DCP amendment updates. Seconded by Councillor Batter. I might just ask a quick question to the General Manager if we can have pretty much an update on some of the feedback and responses we received and some of the things that they're looking at doing in the report.
I might ask Ryan to give us a summary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the end of last year, we put up a report looking to make some amendments to the DCP to put some requirements around updating communal open spaces, looking at some dedicated music rooms for kids, some multi-purpose breakout spaces, activation of the roof. We're also looking at improving streetscape through enclosure of hydrant facilities and electricity substations, so that we put some artwork around them rather than these horrible I guess, utility structures on every street front, looking to improve the livability of units with some end-of-trip facilities and wider corridors within the apartment buildings, and also some things around electric vehicles, some charging stations. As a result of the public exhibition process, we received 2 submissions. One was from the Urban Task Force. They, in principle, support the idea about improved livability in units. There was some concerns raised about the increase of costs associated with developments by mandating certain requirements, and they recommended that we look at ways of encouraging so that developers could match different types of facilities within their development to match their client base, who they're looking to sell the units to. So what we've done is that we've now made some amendments to the controls to link them to our design excellence provisions. I think you'll recall that there was a report end of last year about design competitions and design excellence to get good outcomes. So we've linked these outcomes that we've talked about here as good design outcomes to the LEP requirements for design excellence now in those provisions. The second submission was from a local resident who was encouraging of the environmental provisions that we talked about, water sensitive urban design and some electrification, the EV chargers in the basement. What they have, however, is raised is a whole series of additional proposed sustainability initiatives. We haven't adopted any of those or recommended adoption of any of those at this point. They are some good suggestions, and I think we'll have to have a look at those and how they relate back to our sustainable Burwood strategy. We can look at that now. We've got the SEAT committee. We can look at that through discussions with that committee into the future.
Thank you, Ryan. So just, I guess, anyway, that's my question. Any other questions? Speakers? I'll just speak quickly on the item. I support anything in our DCPs which allow us to, and I had a good look and some of the submissions and comments in response to the Urban Task Force submission, and the fact that you we also had the Burwood Local Planning Panel members review as an item. And while I guess not all the design qualities are able to be picked up legally through the DCP process, I still think it's a step in the right direction. Many times you'll see applicants, for example, that might want to come in and are building new buildings or towers, and they're obviously, if we talk to them about some of the design excellence for, whether it's the affordable housing bonus they're using or the council's VPA policy, part of that discussion could be around, well, why don't you look at possibly providing some of these other livability outcomes in the development? So some of the changes that we've also made, which I think will go a very long way in addressing some of the issues, is the encompassing of the fire hydrants within the design of the building, rather than being exposed as the facade of the building. It's quite ironic, I guess, it's in the sense that, and this is, I guess, as planning has evolved, but I remember being first elected on council, and one of the issues that was quite significant was not allowing big double garage doors for new home developments, because you didn't want, and there are streets where you'll drive through and see, the 2-story homes, and they were quite large back then because everyone, I guess, was used to, and now they look quite small, but had the double, arched garage doors, and which were sort of front of the building line, and then started filling the streetscape. So you drive through a street, and council prohibited the use of a double garage door, and sort of allowed a single door, which is a bit wider than a normal car. So technically it was wider than having the 2 doors for that reason. But at the same time, you then had a whole range of developments happening, and you had fire hydrants that became part of the front-on streetscape of the building. Certainly in the future, we should consider some further grant process if we can, or some form of discussion at least. Tom gets nervous when I say grant. He sort of sat back. But no, I think we should at least have a discussion with those strata body corporates that are in existing buildings that, you know, might be 5 years or 10 years old that still have those. There's a couple on Condor Street, for example, which could be, you know, configured in the sense, well, it wouldn't cost you anything. You could either put some form of a safety box around them that's still quite openable to, which could be, you know, styled in some type of public art. I'm not sure. Wouldn't mind having a look at that because they are, I think, a blight on the streetscape and an eyesore, and probably one of like many reasons that some people might not like development because they think that's the best it could produce. And it takes away from the fact that we need the housing. And I continually hear from residents, if we get nice buildings with good design, which has, you know, street art or public art encompassed as part of it, and community spaces and good living, we don't have a problem with the housing. So that's why we need to start lifting that standard locally. Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Sorry, well done to the staff as well for their report and consultation on this with all the groups. All those in favour? Those against, I declare the motion carried. Next item is 8/26, which is the budget review for quarter ending 31st of December 2025. Moved by Councillor Hull. Was that you? Seconded by Councillor Yang. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, declare that carried unanimous. And the investment report as at the 30th of November 2025, 9/26, being moved by Councillor Yang, seconded by Councillor Esper. Speakers for, against, put the motion. All those in favour, those against, declare that carried unanimously. And I note there is no further business and declare the meeting closed at 6:32 p.m.